meeting of the Portland City Council and our second special call meeting of the month, September the 4th, 2012 at 6 p.m. I'd ask you please this time to stand for the prayer and pledge by Tim Coker.
Let us pray. Dear Heavenly Father, Lord, we come to you tonight in search of your wisdom, Lord, the grave responsibility that the people of Portland have placed on this body, Lord, that you would grant us wisdom to pass policies that would be beneficial for the city, be beneficial for the citizens, Lord. Lord, we just pray your blessings on the decisions, that they would prosper. Lord, we pray for those in our community that are hurting, those that are in need, that, Lord, through your children, that those needs might be met, that we would just have a desire to meet those needs, Lord, and fulfill the Great Commission. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Alderman Coker. Appreciate
You're welcome.
to do that. Roll call, Ms. King.
Alderman Bratton.
Here.
Alderman Callis.
Here.
Alderman Coker.
Here.
Alderman Harbin.
Here.
Vice Mayor McDowell.
Here.
Alderman Minnis.
Here.
Alderman White.
He had one.
Okay, thank you.
Sorry about that, I didn't realize it.
Next, we need approval of the minutes of August the 6th and 20th council meetings. Do we have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Any comments on the minutes, additions, deletions? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Next, need approval of the agenda. Do we have a motion to approve the agenda?
So moved.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Any comments on the agenda, changes or anything? I do not have any. It's unusual. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Next, we have 3 ordinances for public hearings. I do apologize. I have had some sore throat and cold, but I'll try to speak louder. I know I'm not real strong anyway, but I'll try. These are public hearings is on these 4 ordinances only. We will have a period of time later where the public can address the council on any other item on the agenda, but if you have a comment on these ordinances, you need to speak at this time. The first is ordinance 12-33 is ordinance authorizing agreement between the City of Portland and North American Stamping Group, known as Tennessee Stamping, for fast track funds in accordance with the state, and this is for the addition onto their building. And this is agreement where they agree to the match amount of the grant that they would have to pay. Does anyone have any discussion on this ordinance? Okay, the next is ordinance 12-34. This is ordinance authorizing the contract between the City of Portland and Tennessee Stamping. This is the ordinance that actually authorizes the contract for that grant. Does anyone have any comment? All right, next is ordinance 12-35. This is an ordinance authorizing the contract between the City of Portland and Leanne Cox Professional Services for administration of the fast track grant, and that amount is included in the budget of the project and is paid for through grant funds. Does anyone have any comments? Next is ordinance 12-38. It's an ordinance providing for the levy of all property, personal, and ad valorem taxes for the City of Portland. The rate will be $1.10 and for the Sumner County residents, and $1.13 for Robertson County residents. This is the same as last year. Does anyone have any comment on the tax rate for the upcoming year? Okay, if not, these 4 public hearings will be closed. Next, we have any communications from any of the aldermen or mayor to the public at this time.
Mayor, I tried to get your attention before we done the agenda thing. And I noticed we didn't have anything under public safety, but would it be possible to hear from Chief West? I know we've had a lot of rain lately, and I'd like to know what's going on with that.
That'd be fine.
Appreciate it. Thank you, sir.
And I've forgotten the name of the group, and I've been sitting here trying to rack my brain, but the preservation group that did the Moy Green, Portland Preservation, what's the end of it? The Historical Society was responsible for the open house at the Moy Green House. It was just a great event, well attended. At least 100 people, I would say more than that, showed up, and it was just a great event, and I appreciate their hard work in getting that done.
All right, thank you, Ken. Yeah, I've heard some good things about it. Unfortunately, I was not able to be there. All right, anyone else or anything further? Okay, if not, we'll go on to our reports. You have before you the reports. Do we have a motion to approve these reports?
So moved.
We have a second.
Second.
Is any questions or comments on the reports? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Next is a time for public recognition. If anyone would like to address the council, you may do so at this time on an item on the agenda. We do ask that you hold it within 5 minutes. Would anyone like to address the council? Okay. Please state your name and address, please.
Matthew Reed, 107 Hammond Drive, Fulton, Tennessee. I was the only one on the list tonight, so.
Okay.
Well, I know it's kind of a surprise to see me again here tonight, but, again, it's about the city administrator and also the possible changes to our, city charter. The one question I'm kind of curious about is, why are you here? I mean, why did you run for the office that you currently hold? Now, was it to benefit yourself, or was it to make Portland better? I've heard a lot of your I guess, speeches, so to say, as far as when you were running for alderman or for mayor, and honestly, it sounded like all of you want to make the city better. Now, we've got the city administrator being the big vote tonight, and I'm pretty sure you know my feelings on it, of course. I'm for it. But we also have to look at the city finance director, which is also part of those charter changes, which right now, to my understanding, we don't have anyone in that position. So people are worried that the city's finances are up in the air. And I've heard both Alderman Coker and Alderman Callis's presentations that they both gave. They both gave wonderful presentations, and I believe after the end of Alderman Callis's, Alderman Coker responded to him as to some of those concerns he had in it. It's been on TV a bunch this weekend, so a lot of people have seen it. And one of the things was they were afraid that people wouldn't be able to vote for who's leading the city. City administrator is going to be chosen by this council and by the mayor. So we still have someone running the city and being here by popular vote, as opposed to being just somebody that y'all think you should bring in. Well, we put you in your positions because we trust you, we respect you, and we hope that you're going to do the right thing for us. You know, they are able to have a level of education and hopefully experience with running a city, which any legislation or policies they come up with, you're still going to be voting on as to whether they get passed or not. They're just going to merely carry them out. So we still have our representation as citizens and as individuals. Now, mayors.org, which was a website that Alderman Coker mentioned, I believe you, Alderman Callis, I'm sorry, no, I'm not supposed to directly. I looked at it, and there is a majority of mayors who are in the position doing the job that are in favor of a city administrator. Our own mayor said he was in favor of it, and I know Attorney Amonette had also said that he's in favor of it. I think it's something that we need. You know, this is something that is going to help this city at this point. We're losing the battle. You know, the city is continually getting further in debt, and right now no one's minding the store, so to speak, as far as the money's concerned. We have a temporary city recorder. We have the mayor taking care of some of the money, or the bills as well, but we need someone to be able to free up the mayor's position, which if you want to run for mayor, you still can. You can still be the mayor of the city of Portland, but there will be someone running the policies you set for you, giving you more time to represent the city in a positive light to the rest of the state and to possible investors or, potential people who want to move here. I moved here because it's a small town. It's a small town, so that means it's a family. It's a community that, hopefully all of us want to be a part of. And I think it's something that for my child that I have, when he gets married one day and has kids, I want him to be living in Portland. I want him to be going to football games wearing a Portland t-shirt, screaming his head off, for the home team to win. Right now, the home team is the citizens, and we're losing. Despite the best efforts of this council and previous ones before it, this mayor and previous mayors, we haven't gotten any better. We're still trying to fight back from this deficit that we're in, not only financially, but community. You know, we have people that are moving out. I've got a lot of empty houses in my neighborhood that weren't there when I moved here 2 years ago, well, almost 3 years ago. You know, we have businesses that I used to go to that are no longer here because we don't have the finances to sustain them. We've got a huge growth coming up. You know, with the I-65 corridor, with the bypass coming in, we've got some huge areas that we can grow in. I just want to kind of have someone in that position that's had that experience, that has the education and the business finance knowledge to be able to do it for us. And I think that a mayor's a great idea. We'll still have one. We'll still have y'all to vote for everything. You'll still have the representation of the people, because we're going to put you there because we have faith and trust that whoever you hire for that city administrator's position, passing those charter changes, giving us a finance director, will help this city progress to the next level to be the Portland that I hope, and I know a lot of you up there hope it can be. Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you, Mr. Reed. Does anyone else wish to address the council tonight? Okay, if not, the public recognition part will be closed. Is there any other business for the council? Matthew, did you or Curtis have anything from the CAC tonight?
Actually, some of the citizens wanted to comment also about the event at the Moy Greenhouse. They think it's wonderful that Portland's taking a look into its history and trying to preserve it, and a lot of them got to show for us. It was a really great event, so I want to tell you what a wonderful job you did with that. One of the citizens brought up something that they noticed, that Gallatin has legislation to prevent door-to-door solicitation. And this isn't talking about like the newspapers in the driveway. This is people actually coming up and knocking on your doors. The one citizen that alerted me to it said they've had this problem approximately 4 times in the past month and a half. The last gentleman that showed up was representing a certain communications company, and when asked to produce ID or the permit, which from his understanding they're supposed to carry with them if they're going door to door and someone asked to see it, they were kind of worried about the fact he wouldn't produce it. And when they told him, well, we're going to alert the police that you're here, he quickly took off. So they were wondering if there's any way we could pass administration or legislation to where if someone's going door to door, either they have to have a permit through the city, and if they violate like certain times, there's a kind of a no-call list for solicitation in Gallatin. It's like if you put your name on a no-call list, you can't get phone solicitation. They have the same thing for actual residents. You know, we don't want you to come to our door without having to put up a placard, you know, on their front door, on their mailbox, and elsewhere just to keep them away. And if we were able to enact legislation to keep them from doing that, if we were on a no solicit list where they couldn't come to our door, if they violated that, the city could possibly bring in revenue by fining them. And Gallatin, to my understanding of the laws right now, what they will do is, if they violate it, if they go like past a certain time they're not supposed to, or in areas they're not supposed to, they essentially kick them out of the city. The only drawback to that is they can come in under a different name with a new permit and continue the same actions. With the no solicit list, we'd be able to keep people from coming to your door. Like if the mayor's on the no solicit list and I'm selling Avon and I decide to knock on his door, well, he can report that to either the police or some member of the form of government to let them know that it's happening, so that way those people that are doing it are disciplined, so to speak. I think that the city could actually make some money that way, as opposed to kicking them out. If you levy a fine, then you're getting money in, but you're still allowing them to bring business to Portland, so you're not necessarily kicking them out altogether. But if we do that and have a no solicit list, that can keep them from coming to our doors in the middle of the night. They were also curious as to taxes that were paid for the county. They've noticed that, unfortunately, again, Gallatin has with these wonderful flower arrangements and landscaping done at every stoplight, and they're wondering with the amount of taxes we pay as citizens, if any of that, if there's a way to bring that back here, to where some of that money is being spent to beautify Portland, as opposed to just, you know, where City Hall's at in Gallatin and in that area, also Hendersonville. It's like they think that we're getting maybe the short end of the stick as far as it going back into the county itself. And they were wondering if there's any way that you might be able to look into that. Again, they've also asked about the finance director and the city recorder position. They're wondering as to when those might be filled, and also possibly a human resources director. They're kind of worried about, again, where's the money being accounted for. And while they were looking at that, they also made mention of something called a continuation budget. Right now, Gallatin's running on a continuation budget because they haven't passed a new one from last year, so they're running basically off the same one that they did before. And they were concerned or questioned as to if our city was being run on a continuation budget or if we've already passed a new one. The last thing was the city administrator. We've had actually more people vote on it since the last time. Granted, it's only been an additional 3. We've actually had some members that wanted their names included to show that they were for it. And I was asked by one of the people who commented on it to point out if we had anyone show up or not to speak against it, which to my knowledge none have after 4 meetings. But since they asked me to mention their names, I will. Lori Rockenstein, Melody Gillespie, Jason Williams, Judy Scott, Deanna Edens, Sharon Watson, Teresa Grove, Matt Edens, Jason Tackett, Victor Edens, Tim Suddarth, Lori Cohn, Kim Powell, Charles Ware, Doug Garton, Charlie Weiserak, Stephanie Palm, Terry George, Brian Wade, Curtis Grove, David Wilbur, Sheila Kelly, Karen Johnson, Carissa Dennis, and Alderman Coker. As a CAC, we were appointed by this council. This council founded us to put us here to speak on behalf of the citizens. Back when the vote was taken when city administrator first came up, it was passed by the CAC as a vote to 7-0, based on what we were told by the constituents that vote for you gentlemen. So the citizens wanted us to have that in place. Also, since we voted for it, it's my duty to speak on behalf of the citizens that I've spoken with and listed some of them here as to wanting to have their names presented that could not make it to these meetings. The last thing they wanted to talk about was the televising of work studies. The work studies that we have on Monday nights, a lot of citizens really would like to be a part of it, but unfortunately can't make it here. And they're able to get like these council meetings online through our website, the city's website. They'd like to have the same opportunity for the work studies because a lot of businesses taking care of it, the work study, and a lot of decisions as to things that are upcoming that could impact them directly. If there's any way for us to be able to televise that. Other than that, that's pretty much all the CAC has for this evening. And on a personal note, based on the CAC, we hope that this council finds, actually, there was one more thing. One of our representatives found that on page 43, Article B of the new charter, that it reads, "This act shall become effective when it has been approved by the mayor and city council of the city of Portland by a vote of no less than 2/3 of the entire council within 30 days of its signing by the governor of this state. The approval or non-approval of this act by the mayor or city council shall be certified by the mayor of the city of Portland to the Tennessee Secretary of State." So the question that was posed was, if it was already enacted, the charter changes, if we got it back from the governor being signed, I think it was on May 15th, would the vote that's being taken here tonight be considered null and void as based on the new charter saying that it would be active after approval? So I'm not sure.
That'll be discussed when we get to that point.
Okay. Well, that was just one of the questions that one brought up. Any questions for me, gentlemen?
Thank you.
Appreciate your time. Have a good evening.
I will address 2 or 3 things. Lee did mention, we do have a budget. A budget was passed by this council, so we are actively working on it within our new budget. The application process for the HR director, this Friday is the last day for those applications to be in. The MTAS will set up interviews and so forth with us when he goes through the list of applications. We will, just as soon as the council makes a decision on the charter, deal with those positions, the finance director and recorder, as soon as we can. Kind of, nobody minding the store type, it kind of bothers me a little bit. There is a very particular process goes through when checks are written. They're checked by 2 or 3 different people, Actually, sometimes people write the check, and not the ones put in envelopes. Actually, other people, Patricia and myself both check off the list every week. We go through the budget constantly, so, money is being watched very, very closely. Probably more now than ever has been in the past. And we have Doug, who is working with us, who's, always reminding me of different things, so, to do, so. From those, and I will check on the county tax. I'm not sure what you're talking about there. You may want to get with me on that. And then, I noticed Gallatin had an article in the paper about their door-to-door, so we do have some door-to-door things here, but maybe want to check on there and see if it's a little bit stricter.
We
on-
brought ours up, what, 2 years? I mean, I don't know how long we've had it instituted.
Right.
They're supposed to come by City Hall, and
Right, supposed to.
we've got that policy in place now.
Right. No, I don't think we have that, so we'll check on theirs and see if we can maybe get some ideas.
Mayor, I'd like to add a couple of names to the ones that I'm sure they're prominent citizens, and I'm sure they won't care for me mentioning their names. Every time I talk to them, I want to know how this is going about the city administrator, it's Bill Dye and Scrub Toe Wilkinson.
Okay.
There's two that I was kind of surprised that they're very much in favor of.
Okay, thank you.
And they're both, well, one of them been in business for years, and of course, Bill's a educated man, he's been an educator.
Yeah, the
Alright.
two things, the city's things, I think there was some confusion about the county utilizing funds, within the city of Gallatin, city of Hendersonville. I would venture to say those funds are from the taxpayers of Gallatin, Hendersonville.
Right, that's what I want to get a little clarification, what he's being on.
So grant or, you know,
And some of those projects done with, I know one going out of Hendersonville toward Madison was done with stimulus funds, so, that's for that. All right, we'll go into our meeting. With us having 2 meetings a month, sometimes a lot of things get done in one meeting, another, so we, Mr. McDowell, unless you got anything to add on the planning commission, we don't have anything on the planning commission.
No, sir, nothing this month.
Public Works, Mr. Bratton, I don't see that we've got anything there. Parks and Rec, I don't believe. All right, Chief West, you wanna give us an update on where the contracts are and, if you had any water this weekend?
I meant to call the sewer plant today and see how much we got at the sewer, over the holiday weekend. I know at my residence, I had a little over 3 inches from Friday to this morning. And I was glad to say that we were dry. It came, things have really improved, because we have had some rains that would have certainly flooded here lately that haven't, or they just barely seeped under the back wall and maybe a foot away from, just minor, that we didn't even have to call for remediation. So with that said, the Phase B has been let. The guardrail has been installed. I know everybody's probably noticed that. That was part of the contract B. And then the company that was subcontracted to cut the concrete wall off along the back of the building in order for them to come in and pipe the gutter downspouts and then fill that ditch that's behind the building full of gravel, and then pour a concrete sidewalk over it for the exit doors to come out on. And then once he gets that done, then he's gonna do the French drain, which will be a large diameter perforated pipe that's gonna be all the way down below the floor level of the building, so that any water that's coming off of Reed Street down there would get into the French drain and go off instead of getting up under the building. So we feel there's already been steps made. Progress has been made, because I guarantee you we've had some rains that would have flooded tremendously over the thing. So that's a good sign, and I truly think, I'm very confident now that once this is done, that we'll probably solve this problem, unless we get one of those 100-year floods or something like we did several years ago that would probably affect anything that they did. So
I poured just a little over 3 inches in my rain gauge.
So we're probably about the same then. So usually I call the sewer plant, and when we have a flooding issue, I've been keeping records for the grant situation on the cost of remediation, the whole total cost of everything that we've been doing from remodeling on down, and I always call and get that. So I'll call Mike and log that down too. But we've had a lot of rains, but this one did come over about a 3 or 4 day period, and when we have that, right now, we're not having any problems, but when we're having 3 or 4 inches within a 8-10 hour period, we're still having some that's coming in. Any other questions? And I know too, I talk with, Steve Purdue nearly every day, about some issues and stuff, and I know they got some personal issues going on too, and he's doing absolutely, I think, the best he can right now, and having to deal with some of the other things going on too, so everything seems to be progressing.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Chief. Anything else under public safety?
No, sir.
Okay. We'll go into the legislative part of the meeting where basically everything is. First item is Resolution 12-88, it's a resolution authorizing certificate of compliance for Mr. Patel of Express Liquors located at 505 North Broadway. Do we have a motion to get on the floor?
So moved.
Have a second?
Second.
Any questions or discussions for this renewal of the certificate of compliance?
This is just something that's required that they do every so
Right.
many years.
No questions? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Next will be ordinance, 12-33. It's a second reading. And this is an ordinance authorizing agreement between the City of Portland and North American Stamping Group, known as Tennessee Stamping, where they will be responsible for the match amount of the funds for a fast-track contract. Do we have a motion to get it on the floor?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Any questions on this? This is for an addition that they're doing. They're able to get some state grant money for that. And so but the contract has to be administered or gonna run through the local government. So this is the process that we're doing now.
We discussed this at the work study and on first reading, but just for public information, I wanna, express that there's no dollars coming from the city for these projects.
And actually, this first ordinance was one of 3 for this project. Actually is what it's saying that they are responsible for any of the match to be on that. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Ordinance 12-34. This is also an ordinance authorizing the contract between the City of Portland and Tennessee Stamping. This is the actual agreement for the contract for this project. We have a motion, get it on the floor.
So moved.
Have a second.
Second.
Is any other comments or questions? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Next is also ordinance 12-35, second reading. This is ordinance authorizing contract between the City of Portland and Leanne Cox for professional service and administration of this grant for Tennessee Stampings. The fee for her company will be paid out of this grant amount, and it is part of the budget of the contract. So we have a motion, get it on the floor.
So moved.
Have a second.
Second.
Any comments or questions? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Next is ordinance 12-38. This is also a second reading. It's an ordinance providing for the levy of all property, personal ad valorem taxes for the City of Portland for the year 2012, with the tax rate for Sumner County be $1.10, and as for Robertson County be $1.13. This is the same rate as it was in the past year. Have a motion, get it on the floor.
So moved.
Have a second.
Second.
Any comments or questions? Tax rate. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Next, we have Resolution 12-80. This is a resolution authorizing the renewing of a loan that we had received for our automatic reading project. It's a 9-year note. The first 3 years are up before the second 3 years, and be renewing the note for $1,080,867 at an interest rate of 3.4%. Have a motion to get it on the floor.
So moved.
Have a second.
Second.
We've discussed this also in work study. This is renewal of the note for the project, and this is the amount that will be renewed at is $1,080,000, which was started out at 1.6 something. And this will be the 3 years had to be paid off, so we are on track to pay it off in the 9-year with renewal every 3 years. And that is set up by the guidelines of the state of Tennessee, and this will have to be sent to the comptroller's office for final approval. Passage of bill. And it leaves us, there was some money, grant was for these automatic meter reading devices to help us with water loss. Also, we want to do some master meters, and there's about $200,000 left to do the master meter program, and Thomas has already started working with a firm on getting that project going.
Did we hear back from that? We were gonna ask that firm if the meters that we had were capable of reading.
Transmitting.
What I plan on doing is setting up, during one of the work studies, have Duke Julian to sell those meters, come and address the council with.
Sounds good. Thank you. That's all.
All right, any other comments or questions on this renewal? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Next, we have resolution 12-85. This is a resolution authorizing a change order for the contract A of the public safety building. It's actually in a reduction amount of $10,780.62. Do we have a motion to get it on the floor?
So moved.
Have a second.
Second.
This what Mr. West was talking about earlier for the public safety drainage was set up in 2 different contracts. They have finished the first part of the contract, contract A. Of course, it was bid by quantities, and with quantities being actually figured in, and with some other savings that was done throughout the project, it was a reduction of $10,780.62 for a final contract amount of $152,484.91.
I got a question for the chief. Did that drainage at the back door, the fire hall back door, that pipe, is that unstopped where water can go out there that? Right at the small back door on the back corner of the building.
I think that's the one you disconnected, is it not?
Is that where the pipe went?
The one that goes under the building?
Yeah.
It's been cut loose on both ends and filled with concrete. It's not being utilized, so the one on the south end, everything was drained on the south end, the back door into a storm drain, and then it's had a new upsized tile to go all the way out to the 109 tile that leads down to the.
So it is in operation?
Yes,
I mean,
sir.
it's used?
Yes, sir, it is.
Yeah, okay. I know it was stopped up at one time.
It's no longer being used. That,
Okay. Any other comments or questions? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Next, we have resolution 12-86. It's a resolution requesting that the 45-mile-an-hour speed limit be raised to 55 miles an hour on Highway 109 from Kirby Road to Highway 31W.
So moved.
Have a
Second.
motion and a second.
I think we were waiting on information
Yeah.
this meeting.
I think they
Chief.
have it.
I was asked to compile some stats for speeding. I think it was 06 and 09, and mainly
the 109 north part as it pertains to accidents, I believe that's correct. We had an opportunity to look at September 2006 through September 2009, when the speed limit was 55. We had 25 accidents during that time period. 10 of those accidents resulted in injuries to about 16 people, and 2 of those injury accidents happened on a wet highway. We had 1 fatality accident, and we had 14 property damage accidents. Now that's when it was 55. So we come in September of 09 and we drop it to 45. We had a total of 13 accidents involving injuries. 4 accidents 13 total, 4 was injuries, and 9 were property damage only. 13 total accidents, 4 accidents with injuries, and 9 property damage accidents. Almost half. The other info I just thought I'd throw in there, it takes about 30 seconds more to drive it at 30 seconds less to drive it at 55 than we did at 45. We also had an opportunity to visit some of the people that lived in that community on 109 North all the way to state line. We visited 15. 12 of the 15 wished we would leave it like it is, and 3 of the 15 would like to see it raised.
Well, do you concur that you're giving them 10 miles an hour now?
In the traffic
Speed limit.
citations? Yes, sir, I think we do. I think some of the guys will ride them
So
to 10
you're
over.
giving them 10 miles an hour?
I believe so.
That's 55.
Right.
Okay.
But as chief, I'd like to leave it at 45. It's a lot of congestion up there, a lot of homes, a lot of highways in and out. So my position, leave it at 45.
Well, my position is if you're gonna have 45, it ought to be 45. If you're gonna let them go 55, let it go 55.
I understand.
I mean, a speed limit should be a speed limit. A state trooper probably wouldn't give you that 10 miles an hour. City police officer would. A little bit. See what I mean?
I understand that. I'm not saying that we give 10 to everybody, but it's a pretty common practice for us to give 10 over. It's pretty fair. I mean, we don't write them for 1 over. We definitely don't write them for 2 or 3 over, so we try to give them 10.
Now, you're making it worse. You're saying you don't give 10 to everybody.
Well, I can't speak for everybody. It depends on
Oh.
the situation, but yeah, it's officer discretion. We
And,
pretty
you
much
know,
go with that 10
The way
rate.
they drive. And
Okay.
everything.
So, and I assume it'd be assumption that if it was 55, then it would be 65. So if we're gonna, typically,
Well, there's a whole lot different, 45 and 65.
and that's the
Just
point.
10 mile line, between 55 and 65.
45 and 65.
All right, anybody got any other questions for Chief?
Thanks,
or-
Chief.
This-
I think, Tim, you got it for Chief or just?
Alderman Minnis had a discussion with me about this, see if I thought this was a good idea or not, and I told him, when we lowered this to 45, I thought lowering it to 45 to Kirby Road was desperately needed to be done, but beyond that, I was kind of ambivalent and didn't really think it make a whole hill of difference one way or the other. With that stoplight coming in there at Kirby Road, I don't know that I would want it to go 55 right there at Kirby Road, but if it go a little bit past that, I mean, I wouldn't be, kind of in the same boat. I just really don't know how much difference make one way or the other. But I just don't want it to be 55 at the light and then all of a sudden,
Changes.
Right.
There at the light.
right there at the light.
I'm like the chief, though, if there's a distance of 3 miles there and you're talking about 10 miles per hour difference, it's only 30 seconds more it takes you. Takes you 30 more seconds of your time to go 10 miles slower. I mean, that's the difference in stopping your vehicle and reacting in those 10 miles an hour can be the difference between putting somebody in a cast or in a casket. I mean, there can be a big difference there on that. So, I mean, I'm not gonna lose any sleep over it either, but there again, I don't live out through there and have to.
That's true. It's easier to say that when you're not, when you don't live out there.
Well, I live on North Russell, and it might as well be raised to 65 up through there.
That's true. I've lived there too for a while.
Even if they give them 10, they can still put it at 65.
Are you advocating that?
I could give them 10 and still write them ticket.
All right, any other comments or questions on?
I appreciate the mercy, Chief, on that speed limit, I really do. Every once in a while, I don't pay attention how fast I'm going myself, so, but,
Like I said, I'm not in favor of it at Kirby Road. If we want to extend a little bit past, I could probably support it, but not right at Kirby Road where it's going to be a stoplight there.
well, after seeing the stats, I didn't know. That's the reason why we asked, and
What are
I'm
they,
gonna feel comfortable taking the Chief's
what are they
recommendation on that.
supposed to put that stoplight in?
They've started on the.
They got work going on down there
working on
now.
drainage and stuff, so it's, I would hope in 3 months or so. Depending on the weather, it's getting the winter, but.
Well, could I ask the council a question? Would you support deferring that until we get that red light in and see where they want to put it at?
Well, it doesn't matter. I'm all for raising it, but if you want to defer, it's fine with me. I kind of disagree with you on the red light though, because most people, if they approach a red light, if they're using any common sense, they're gonna slow down just a little bit, just in case that light changes before they get there. And if they stop, and then they see there's a 55-mile-an-hour zone, you know.
And I think it depends on whether the light's yellow or not, as whether they're
Well,
slowing down coming up to that. Or
That won't have nothing to do with the speed limit. If they think they can beat that light, they're going.
All right, are you making that formal motion?
I'm gonna ask that this be deferred until that red light goes in there, and then we see where the speed limit should take us.
All right, we have a motion, to defer until the, traffic light is in operation at Kirby and, 109. Do we have a second to that motion?
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. All in favor of deferring, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
And the only thing I'd be mindful of, that if you're gonna raise that section of road up, Minnie told me that, what's the difference of that section and not 52 out to the interstate past Cersei Lane? So it may be something to consider if you're gonna look at both of them for those reasons, for the same reasons.
All right, just to be sure, I didn't hear any no's. Is anybody against the deferred? Anybody vote no on deferring? Okay, sure. All right. Next is resolution 12-87. It's a resolution authorizing the televising of the Portland City Council work studies. As most of you know, we have a council meeting the first and third Monday nights where an official action as tonight is taking place. Those are televised. It has been discussed at the work study to start televising the work studies, which take place the second and fourth Monday nights of each month. All the meetings are starting at 6 o'clock. Do we have a motion to get it on the floor?
So moved.
Have a second?
Second.
Open up for any discussion on this item?
One thing I had a question about, we had just briefly talked about in the work study, and how would the scheduling work if we, I'm gonna ask Brandon, but he's up there. How would the scheduling work if you added 2 more meetings in a month? How does that play in?
Instead of replaying them 2 weeks in a row, you replay it 1 week.
So you're gonna give each one of them just equal amounts, what you would do on that?
Or we could do it differently.
That'd be up to the cable commission and the council.
That's what they talk about, just doing weekend times. And then too, there are, would there be any issue with putting the work studies on and you can put them on the YouTube just like you do, so they would all be accessible anytime. I don't know, some people may not be aware of it, but, our televised meetings can go to our website, and you can bring up a past meeting and see it there. And I do know that I've had several people that have done that, you know, to go back and hear something play. So it is being used to some extent. So. All right, any other comments, Mr. McDowell?
We discussed this in work study, which was not televised. So I want to bring this up again. I know there was some discussion made that there are citizens that individually they can get a hold of us if they want to talk to us about an issue they may have. Sometimes it's probably not that easy to get a hold of some of us as it is others. I still think there are times that there are citizens within the community that may want to address the council, and they don't want to be televised when they do that. They may want to address us as a body. And for that reason, I would still like to offer an amendment to this, that we at least set aside a time before that meeting televises to give anyone that may want to address the council a time to do that off of the television. Just a simple request for that. Just for the protection of those that may not wanna be on TV.
You just put that in the form of a motion.
Yes, sir.
We have a motion, so everyone's, what Vice Mayor McDowell is asking, that on the work studies, that people may have issues with, maybe some bills or different things they've had before, and may not wish to be on TV, that we provide a time, or any issue, not just use that example. Provide time for them to do that, and then once council starts discussion of it, the meeting, we call to order, then it would be on television. Does anyone want to second that emotion?
I'll second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Now discussion on the amendment only.
Just to clarify, you're saying only they're addressing the council is not on TV, but you're not saying don't discuss their issue on TV. You're saying go ahead and discuss their issue on TV, right?
That's correct.
Okay.
Just the person that wants to address the council has the option to do that off the air if they would like.
Well, then would you, at the beginning, after you open the meeting, would you announce that anybody want to speak now if you don't want to be on TV?
That's the way I think we would do it, give them out, but once we start televising, I think it needs to continue on at that point.
I mean, that amendment may not pass, but I'm gonna throw that out there because there is some concern for that.
Yeah, give an opportunity before.
I got a little bit of a problem with that because, some people want to discuss things off the air that may not want the community to know about. This may be true, but if it's public, it should be public.
I agree with that.
I'm gonna have to vote against it now.
I mean, it'd still be in a public meeting. No
Yeah,
different
but-
than our work
Right.
studies are now.
Just wouldn't be on TV, still be notes taken, be recorded, just wouldn't be on.
If we're gonna put it on TV, I think we need to put it all on.
Any other
I agree,
discussion
because there may be questions asked that the public might want to know what our answer was.
And if something comes up to where we need to ask a question from somebody in the audience about a certain item, once it gets in front of council, if we need to ask somebody a question about what we're doing, which we do pretty commonly, I mean,
Then they're gonna be on.
we got to cut the TV, or got to cut the cameras off.
Guys, I respect your position on it. I'm just throwing it out there because there was a question.
I tend to agree with Councilman McDowell for another reason. There's people in every community that just not as fond as cameras we are. And there's some people I feel that maybe won't come forward and actually address issues because they just feel uncomfortable actually being televised. And we're a small community, and I still think that that segment ought to have an opportunity to come up. And our work studies are somewhat informal, although they are formal settings. There's not any actual votes taken, to take any action. The action has to be taken at a council meeting. And I personally would like to see some time set aside so those citizens feel comfortable. Oftentimes they're addressed, they come directly from work to try to make it to work study on the issue that they don't have time to go home and maybe change. They feel uncomfortable a bit about that. So I would like to see some provision made for those individuals.
I wouldn't have any problem with telling the public that we're gonna come up here 30 minutes early before council meeting. Just to talk to those people that wanna talk to us, if that's the case. I wouldn't have any problem with that, if that's what you want.
That's all I'm asking is they be given a time to address this council off of the air if they choose to do that.
Well, my position is that, how many people do we have coming up here? People want to see their business, they won't be able to sit at home and watch it. The business is conducted of a city. They don't come up here in droves to talk.
Well, I have people talk to me every day. I go out in the public every day, people talk to me, I have people call me.
We're all out.
I even got a letter on one issue.
I did too. I did too.
I did too.
Yeah, I mean, I think, that's one thing, we're all very accessible. I mean, I go through it, here too and out and about, so I think we're all. All right, any more discussion on amendment only? I think we know we're gonna have, so let's go ahead and do a roll call vote on this one.
Vice Mayor McDowell,
Yes.
Alderman Bratton,
Yes.
Alderman Callis,
Yes.
Alderman Coker,
Yes.
Alderman Harvin,
No.
Alderman Menace,
No.
Alderman White.
All right, the amendment passes 4-3. Allowing a little time off TV. Now we're back to the original resolution, of televising the work studies. Any more discussion on televising of the work studies?
I really feel like we've got 2 meetings that are already being televised each month, and I know that this probably is falling on deaf ears, but I like the relaxed atmosphere of a work study, and I feel like we get more accomplished by doing that, because I'm afraid that once the cameras turn on, people possibly would turn on a little bit different personality than they do at the work studies, because they know that the cameras are on them, and they may or they may not say something they would at a work study, or they may say something differently than they would knowing the cameras are on them. So I'm not for televising our work studies.
I don't know why a council member would do that.
Well, I mean, I just feel that they might. Same reason people I think don't want to be on TV.
And Tim, I agree. I by all means, our meetings are open to the public, and they can come in here and sit and listen if they want to. There's nothing to hide.
Are you talking to me or Tim?
I mean, Brian. I'm looking at Tim and talking to
You
you.
confused me there for a second.
I agree with what you're saying, because they're welcome to come sit and listen, look in the minutes or record it if they want to know that information. I do feel like maybe sometimes that when the camera's rolling, there is somewhat of a difference in attitude that takes place. I've noticed it too.
I don't remember the last time I saw you wear a suit to a work study. Let me put it that
Right.
way. You know what I mean? And not you specifically, brother. I just mean
By another
that
city.
everybody does. They know. Everybody knows the cameras are on. And that's the same reason, like we were just talking about having a time for the people to come up and talk when they don't want to be on the cameras. Well, if they come up and talk when there wasn't cameras, then obviously the cameras do make a difference.
Right.
Well, you know, my stance is I want them to know what I say,
Oh, I know.
and how I feel.
You do not have to clarify that to me, but
I don't think it's the wanting to know. I think it's just a work study is time you kind of, I mean, you're thinking, and you're, maybe just run this by or that by, and it's not in quite a formal setting, and sometimes we ramble, as we do here sometimes, but, it's a way where you can, in a more relaxed sphere, just think about things and maybe ask questions and so forth.
that's my point more than anything. It seems like we can shoot out more ideas and get more accomplished and not, have more in-depth discussions, I guess, is what it seems like we can have at the
Right.
work studies.
This was brought to me a couple of months ago, and I said that I would look into it, and we talked about it at the Cable Commission. I think somebody else at the same time had it brought up to them because we discussed it that night. Somebody else actually brought it up at the meeting when I had just come from the cable meeting. And I can only express what the people that have talked to me have said, and that, all of the discussion that goes into how this body arrived at a vote takes place at those work study meetings, and that they felt like that they would understand how things came about more if they could be a part of those discussions much more easier. I can't deny anything that any of you are saying. I mean, I'm very comfortable on camera, but others aren't. I mean, I think even members of this body, some aren't really comfortable on camera, and this goes to what Alderman Harvin was saying. A lot of aldermen that off camera may have proposed an idea may just decide not to because they don't want to sound bad on camera or anything like that, and that's one advantage the work studies have. But when I weigh my mind in that I want the people that I represent to know how I came to a decision. I want the people I represent to believe that all of the issues that we've talked about and vote on have been thoroughly discussed and debated, and most of them are. But I believe this is a way to Of course, you're never gonna satisfy everybody, but it would make it more to where people would see just how much thought and how much effort and how much energy is put into these decisions. And probably where you fall as to which is more valuable as far as more free flow of ideas or a more free exchange of how you arrive to this decision will decide on how you vote on this issue.
Any other comments?
Oh. No, I'm just thinking, and it came out.
On camera.
Yeah, on camera. Would it be possible, I supported the amendment because if that's what this body chooses to do, I think that would be the right way to handle it. Personally, I could support leaving it like it is and not actually televising just the council meetings. So what would be a mechanism at this point to vote on each and not have them tied together? Because my concern is that if this legislation fails,
Oh, I see what you're saying.
if it fails, then the provision that Councilman McDowell put in fails also.
But they wouldn't be televised if it fails, though, so it'd kind of be a moot point.
What?
You're
No,
just talking about
the
in
no, the
general
amendment,
for
the
all
amendment
televised
passed.
meetings.
The amendment passed, so
Yeah, the
we
amendment.
voting on the amendment along with the entire legislation now. So
Right.
if it fails,
There's no need.
There's
for it.
no televised meeting, there's no televised work
meeting.
studies, so whether you, the amendment wouldn't bear any issue on that.
Well, if this fails, his amendment will be moot.
Right.
my
Mhm.
point being, if it was, I could support it if it was in there. You
Well,
follow?
if it passes the televising, then what Mr. McDowell proposed will take place.
But
We voted to amend the resolution to whereas now, if it's passed, his proposal's gonna be in there. It's not two different issues now.
well, I understand, but I guess I'm not making myself clear.
Cause I'm lost now.
I think that there's some of us would like to see it just have two meetings. So either you're gonna have to vote for the amendment to ensure that provision's in there, because we voted down, it's not. Am I confused here?
The amendment passed.
The amendment
I
passed.
understand. Okay, well, let's vote it, and then we can,
If you don't want it televised,
we
you just
can
vote
bring
no.
it back, we can bring it back. Let's just vote, let's vote on the amendment.
We've already voted.
I mean, let's vote on the total, let's vote on it as it is. No, let's vote on it as it is.
Right.
Look for me.
No, you'll see what I'm talking about in just a
With the
second.
amendment?
Yeah, with the amendment.
Yeah,
Yeah,
with
but
the
the amendment is part of the resolution now.
Right.
It's part of the resolution, let's
If
vote on
it
it.
passes, yeah.
All right, anybody else got any other questions, comments? I think we'll do a roll call on this one too, since I think we're gonna have a mixture. Roll call, Ms. King.
Vice Mayor McDowell,
No.
Alderman Bratton,
No.
Alderman Callett,
Yes.
Alderman Coker,
Yes.
Alderman Harbin,
No.
Alderman Menace,
Yes.
Alderman White.
No.
Fails.
Did it fail? Was it 3 to 4?
That was 4.
Four
It
no's.
failed.
All right, so at this time, the only two televised will be our first and third council meeting. All right, next we go to, I think we've had good discussion on this, so it may be something we want to revisit, but it's always good to have these discussions. Next, we go to Resolution 12-14, which is a revote of a resolution on the charter change, in which the big item of the charter change is the city administrative part of it. I know, I think several want to make comments. Do we have a motion to get it on the floor?
So moved.
Do we have a second?
Second.
All right, I'll open it up for any comments.
I just have a couple of quick things, and first, I do appreciate everybody contacting me. After the last, from I guess Tim's presentation up, probably had more citizen involvement, I guess, from that point in time up to now. And I've had them on both sides, those who are for it, those who are against it, those who are for it and want to vote on it, those who are for it and want us just to pass it, and those types of things, and vice versa. But do want to clear up a couple of points of confusion that I've come across. One, as a private act charter city, which we are, if we elected to, yes, we can put charter changes on the referendum. That is simply in the intent letter that you send to the General Assembly. When we send the intent letter down there, we put a 2/3 majority. To ratify a charter, you've only got two ways to do it for a private act. That's for a referendum or through 2/3 majority of all council members present. The other was a time limit that was put in the charter when it was sent to the state, said you had to ratify it within 30 days. Somewhere in the process, after it got sent to the state of Tennessee, I don't know who, it was either the legal division of the state, the General Assembly, or it was a legislator. But somebody removed the 30-day time limit out of the amendment that we sent to the state. And because of that, you have up till December 1st, is my understanding, to approve or disapprove or ratify this document by 2/3 majority vote. So I just wanted people to be aware of that, because there seems to be some of the confusion that's going on. Also, one other item, and we were just discussing in our last meeting that we discuss sometimes things to death and forget where we are in the discussion. And we were talking, me and Tim were talking about the representation that night, and I thought I was one way, he thought it was one way, then I wasn't sure, so I didn't even bring it up in the rest of it. But, you know, in the present charter, because it ended up, I think it went on a 5-2 vote that night, that we reduced the representation down because the mayor was going to, in this charter, the mayor's moving into a member of council, so we just simply dropped a seat. So I just wanted to clear that up, because I wasn't really sure myself after we talked about it so much. I thought maybe it was the other way.
I was sure, and I was wrong.
Yeah. well, we did look at the minutes and realize which way it was, and so those are the things there. But I just want to let you know about the referendum and stuff.
What Mr. Callis just brings out, that within the new charter, the 6 council members and the mayor would become a member of the council, still direct me, but he would be a voting member of the council also. And the way it was set up is the first election, November 14, you would be electing a mayor and 2 council members, and then 4 council members at the
6 council members. Well, I was mistaken about that. I thought it was
that's
7.
what
I was too.
It's like y'all, I talked about it so much, without having in front of me, I thought it was the 6, but then
Well, Mike sent me an email the night after the meeting asking me if I was sure, and I said, yeah, I'm sure. And I sent him the charter, and he's like, no, this isn't the charter I have. And I'm like, well, that city attorney's done messed it up if this is the case. So that's my go-to excuse whenever something's out of whack. But it was changed to 7 and the mayor at legislative, I want to say. But on first reading, there was an amendment to put on the floor to change it back, and that was in January 2012. And I have no memory of that meeting, because even to this day, if I hadn't put it in my notes, I would sit here and say it didn't happen. And that's my own shortcoming to some health problems I was having at the time.
And I think what happened that night, that we were trying to include all the ideas, and there was some council members that felt that night that if it was included, they could support it, and it wasn't a deal-breaking issue with me, and I think it was amended.
Oh, it was. I mean, I put it in my notes, so I was there. I voted, but I don't remember it for the life of me. So I apologize to Alderman Callis that I so vociferously argued that it was 7 in the mayor, because that was incorrect. Also on this issue, I had a discussion online with someone that was still concerned. And to me, I think the 2 big issues that people that have come to me and been opposed to it have been the veto issue, and more so of they believe that the mayor's going to lose a bunch of power if this goes through. And in trying to defend the issue, I explained it to them in a way that I'd never explained it before, in that when this first started, back in 2003, I guess it was, when I first ran, I wrote a big, long op-ed piece against city administrator form of government because I was looking at the TCA version. And it's much, much different than the private act that we're going to pass. Even when this was first brought up a couple of years ago, I was really kind of against it because on surface, no veto power. You know, being a social studies teacher, teaching colonial government, no, that's a deal breaker. You know, that's part of our national government. I'm not going to be in support of it. But as a little later on, I began to examine just what good the veto does on our level. And if you compare what the veto does right now compared to what it would do under the city administrator, there really is no difference. Right now, as it stands, for the mayor, I mean, I'm assuming that the people that want the strong mayor want the mayor to be able to influence and affect policy, to be able to get legislation passed and get things done. As it sits right now, the mayor has to get 4 people to go along with them to get any new policy enacted. With the new city administrator and the charter changes that would be made, the mayor would only have to get 3. So that move actually makes the mayor's position more powerful. If you're talking about the veto power and the desire to the mayor to be able to stop something from happening, currently the mayor would have to get 3 people to go along with them to keep something from happening, meaning that so his veto would stand up because 5 overrides veto. Under the new form of government, to stop something from happening, he would still have to get 3 to go along with him. So there's no, that's a push, that's a wash. I mean, there's no loss of power or gain of power there. When you pile that on top of the ability of just how much time is sucked from the mayor's office dealing with the day-to-day operation, personnel issues, all the things that a city administrator will be brought in to handle, freeing the mayor to handle more policy questions, I believe for the things that people are wanting the mayor to be strong on, which in my mind's policy and law, this change actually strengthens the mayor to do those things. And that's one of the reasons why, well, actually that's the main reason why I shifted from being against this to being for it, because I believe what you're gaining from this outweighs tremendously what you're giving up. When you look at it from a results-based perspective, as far as veto power, how does that actually affect the mayor's ability to get something done or keep something from being done? With these changes, as I've laid out, it actually strengthens the mayor to be able to get things done and does not hurt the mayor from being able to prevent things from being done. And I actually had quite a few people say, when you explained it that way, that removed whatever doubt I had about the city administrative form of government. So I wanted to be sure to share that tonight, just in case there were people that were kind of worried about that issue as well. This issue, more than any other, in the 7 years that I've been on this council, I've had people contact me. I've had more people contact me about this than have contacted me about tax increases. I've had more people contact me about this than any other item that we've ever discussed since I've been elected on the council. And not only that, with the exception of maybe, well, I don't even know if it's the exception of that. If you take the people, the 6 to 7 that came out in favor of it and spoke at the public time at the first time we revoted on this, and the people who have contacted the CAC, I have a lot of the same names, but people started actually sending me emails, sending me snail mail, you know, real mail, and calling me saying, will you please use my name and let them know. I can't come to the meeting, but please use my name and let me know that let them know that I support this issue. I've never had anyone do that before, not once. And after that happened 7 or 8 times, I put on my Facebook page, okay, if there's anybody else out there that would like me to do it, let me know. And even more came in. And I've just never seen the amount and the strength of support that this issue is getting on any other issue. And it's people that are willing to stand up and say, I'm willing to take the heat for people that disagree. Use my name. Let them know. And I was trying to keep up with the names that the CAC mentioned, and there were a couple of others that talked to me that they didn't mention. John Payne and his wife, I think that's the one that may have sent y'all the letter. You know, they contacted me about it. Brian Wade. I'm looking through here some of the others. I think all the other names were mentioned as far as the ones that said yes, put my name on there. As far as I wish I had kept up from the beginning of this debate. I wish the people who talked to me 2 months ago, 3 months ago, I would have thought to ask them, can I use your name to show the strength of support? If I had thought to do that, I believe I'd be able to give you 30 or 40 names just easily. And I have no doubt that some people have contacted those that are opposed to this and saying that I'm opposed to it, but none of them have showed up at the meeting. None of them have showed up of any of the 5 times there's been a possibility of someone coming and voicing, saying that I'm against this issue. As far as I know, none of them have said, please use my name to show how strongly I'm against this issue. And in my mind, that just shows kind of the level and strength of the support for the change to the city administrators opposed to keeping it the same.
All right, anybody else have anything else to say? Or?
I missed something evidently when they, we talked about putting this back on the agenda for tonight. How does the non-prevailing side bring this item back up for vote?
That's just in the same meeting. Anybody can bring it back up at a different meeting. Because I thought the same thing you did at first. Somebody was asking me, this whole thing came out, well, I would have shown up if I'd known there was any danger of it not passing. I'm like, well, the only way we can bring it back up is if somebody that voted against it, and then later on somebody said, well, no, that's not the case.
And we checked 2 or 3 of them passing it to be sure.
You know, we've talked about it a lot, and I, you know, oftentimes, and I still believe the way it was a lot like liquor by the drink during that time. Yes, I was personally against it, but I was fine with having it being put on the ballot box. Let people decide what they want. Same goes for this. It's hard for me. I've got my own personal reasons. The loss of representation, I don't like that. The separation from executive and legislative, the way it sits, with the veto that goes, I don't like that. I don't like the fact that the council doesn't have any say over department heads, the hiring and firing of those. But disregard of that, whether it's a personal opinion or not, and it may be, I don't know what our election cycle brings out. 500 people may show up to vote. 499 of them may be for the city manager, and 1 may be the other way. But I'd rather them, this is a change in government. When I ran for office, I ran under a strong mayor system. And it bothers me that we're changing the form of government and not putting it out for a referendum for the people. That is a concern for me, and so I just share that, and that's all I can do. And so, you know, if we wanted to push forward and come up with something that we felt it only takes 5, but we see the kind of problem we ran into with just doing a 5. But if we wanted to send it and get it on the ballot and get something together, I'm fine with that. I really am. I don't have no problem with allowing the people to vote, and whichever way it goes, I will support it wholeheartedly. I can guarantee you that.
I'll address that if you want me to.
All right, anyone?
I've been in communication with Alderman Callis on this issue. To take it to a vote, you have to submit it as a private act to the legislature, and they have to give you permission to hold, which the legislature's not in until January.
Right, but and we got a legal opinion, and which seems to be no problem. I've got there from this past week.
Let me finish, because
Okay.
I don't think the concern you think I'm going to have is the actual concern that I have. If we did that, would you go without a finance director or city recorder until that election was taking place?
You know,
because you would have to.
Well, I think, you know, we've been waiting around now for a while, and when I felt like we should have already put somebody in place as we've been operating for decades, and we should have made sure we had somebody in charge of finances.
Well, we did, then the vote changed.
Well, I can't control that though. But that goes back, to the problem that I brought up, that should we send it to the state with only a 5-2, and that was a concern, and, you know, so that's all you can do.
I had proposed a compromise on this that I was hoping would be legal to do, because we need to get, in my opinion, the finance director in now, and a lot of the other changes that were on the charter as far as what's an ordinance and what's a resolution, different clarifications of that, we need to get those through fairly quickly. So what I was going to propose is that, you know, understanding that even if a city administrator is passed, we won't hire one until this current mayor term is up, which as it stands right now is November of 2014. So what I was going to recommend is that we pass the charter changes as presented, and then when the legislature reconvenes in January, we send just the city administrator part to a referendum vote. But I've been advised today that you cannot do that if you're tying it to a current action cannot be tied to a future one, something like that. So unfortunately, that compromise won't work out. The only concern I have with putting this off, if you send it to a private act to the legislature as soon as they come back, reconvene in January, late January, I think.
Yes.
The last time we sent a private act, how many months was it down there? I think we
It's
passed the
about-
first reading in January, and it didn't come back for second reading till June.
Went in February 17th, it came back.
And back in May, you've got
May
a
the
latter
15th.
part of May for a June vote.
5 months. So that would put us off until, knowing if it's approved or not, until May or June. And I would assume that if you're gonna have it on referendum, you want a month or two for the two sides to present their sides, people to come to opinion. So you're looking at being without these positions and these changes for up to almost a year, another year. And I just don't think we can wait that long. I think whether we're gonna go with what we've got and hire a city recorder who has a lot of financial experience, or whether we're gonna go with these changes and allow the person we hired to be our finance director to be our finance director, I think we need that done as quickly as possible. I don't think we can put it off for another year.
No, we need to go ahead and make a decision, and then, of course, what we could do, we didn't get it into February. If you do want a charge change, we could work on it this year and have it down there for them waiting when they got in. We could probably get it by quicker than waiting to get it to them when they're already in session. They've got a lot of bills already in front of them and so forth, so. I mean, I think we could get one quicker, but we need to be down there when they got ready to start legislation to act upon, but,
Well, I was against this originally, and I didn't like some of the wording. It got changed to my satisfaction. I've thought a lot about it. I haven't had a lot of comments. I've had no negative comments, and not very few positive, because I haven't been out asking. But the mayor has stood up there and said that it's getting over his head, and he realizes that. And I think it takes I think he knows what he's talking about, because he's in that position. And I don't think there's maybe one or two exceptions on this council that's qualified to step up there and take that job. And the people that would be, that are out in the private sector, as already been discussed, they're not gonna take a chance on giving up their positions, possibly for a 4-year term. So I feel I've got grandchildren growing up in this city. I hope they stay here, and I know a lot of you other have children and grandchildren. I want what's best for the city. I don't have anything to gain either way, if it passes or don't pass. I don't have anything to gain or lose. But I just think it's the best thing for the city as a whole. For our younger people that's coming on, what we leave them, good or bad, they're gonna have to live with it. And I just think the way federal government is out of control, I think the city of Portland is not out of control, but it's got over the head, as Kenneth has admitted. It's getting over his head. And the most popular person in this Portland, in this city, might be the worst mayor we could possibly get, as far as popularity. Popularity is not gonna get the job done up here in this seat. So, my feeling is, I'm voting for it for the sake of the city. Because I don't have any, like I said, I don't have anything to gain or anything to lose. I just feel within my heart it's the best thing for the city and for the citizens of this town, especially for the young people that's coming on in the future.
And I can respect your opinion. I really do. I would hope that you would respect mine as well, because I care about the city. I care about the future of it. I live here. My family's here. You know, and I've heard this 2 or 3 times. It's a little upsetting to me. I don't have anything to gain or lose one way or the other as far as the change myself. I've made a commitment to this city, and I've chose to serve this city in more than just this position. And I believe in my heart that it would be hard for me to vote for this and to move this, because I just don't understand that it's the end all to be all when we have other people in place to handle a lot of the positions. And so it's troubling to me, but I really respect your opinion. I would hope that you respect mine enough to believe that I'm doing it for what I think is the best as well, because I care about this community. I'm caring about my grandson and his family that's coming up, and so I would hope to have the same
Well, I
respect for
wasn't
that.
talking directly to you, Mr. Callis. I was just expressing my
Okay.
opinion.
I know it just appears
And
that
my
way.
feeling.
All right, let's keep our comments in general, so.
It shouldn't, because there's 2 others voted the same way you did. I wasn't talking specifically to anybody, and I'm sorry that upset you.
Tim, do you have?
You know, there's something that's become very obvious to me over these last few months. You know, it's funny how things work out to help you see certain issues, certain things that happen. You know, we have a strong mayor system, and we have MTAS. We have professionals here that have a lot of expertise. I'm reminded of a sermon illustration that I read one time. I don't know if it's true. You know, a lot of these sermon illustrations are just variations of old jokes, but according to the sermon illustration, Henry Ford, back when he had his factory, you know, with the assembly line, had a problem. All the machines, all shut down, production was shut down. He called in an electrician to figure out the problem. The electrician takes a look at it and walked up, hit a button, and everything was back in working order. A couple weeks later, Henry Ford was given an invoice for $50,000 bill for that call. And even though he was a very wealthy man, most people don't get wealthy by being careless with their money. He called the guy and said, "Look, all you did was hit a button. Why am I paying you $50,000 to hit one button? I want an itemized invoice of why you're charging me $50,000. He says, "All right, you'll have it by next week." Next week, he got the itemized invoice, and it said, "Pushing button, $1. Knowing which button to push for, $9,999. To me, and this kind of hit home with me with the whole fireworks ban issue. You know, we were so focused on, does the mayor have the power to issue a fireworks ban, that we completely missed that the council had the power to. Sometimes the issue is not getting the answers to the questions, it's knowing what question to ask. And I think this professional has a little bit of a broader base to know what questions to ask to make sure things operate, and that we make as few mistakes as possible. I don't want to oversell this and say, hey, if we get city administrator, everything's going to be fine, dandy, and roses. I've never said that. But the goal is to set you up in as a good position as possible to limit the mistakes that are made. And I think that this way lends itself, the city administrator form of government lends itself to do that more so than the strong mayor.
Has anybody else got any? As you know, I've made it, you know, plain that I favor the change, and I just from the position I'm in and seeing that the duties that are required and what's expected that and doing day to day and the other things expected of the mayor, selling the city and things like that. It's just time-wise, it's almost impossible. I get frustrated myself for so many things I want to do, but I can't do in so many areas. And I think Portland is in a great position with the road situation around us. Our industry is moving right now. So I think we've got a bright future ahead of us. And I just think that in the best interest of the city to have this type of system would be the best. And the council can concentrate, and the mayor, on the growth of the city, how they want to grow, what they want to grow, a lot of different areas that we could concentrate more on than day-to-day operations. And but I would respect, have all of you. I don't think y'all have heard me out here. I've not tried to campaign with anybody or anything. I've let all of you make your own votes. And I respect all of you, and I respect each and every one of you the way you vote, whichever way it goes. I just hope that you vote, like everybody said, what's in your heart and what you feel is best. And whichever way it ends, tomorrow morning, it's gonna be 110% full throttle ahead either way.
And I appreciate everybody's opinions and all on it also, and sometimes I think that maybe I'm wrong by saying this, a common sense approach a lot of times seems to be better than all the degrees and all the education that you can have. And I can tell a story like Tim told, that one of our policemen years ago was chasing a guy going through town and got out on a hot foot pursuit, and the guy jumps a fence and gets away from him, and there was a local guy in town here, when the officer went to jump the fence, told him, don't jump that fence. And he flipped a badge out at him and said, I'm a policeman, I can jump, I've got this. And he jumps the fence, and it's a big dog there, starts tearing him up. He started hollering for help, and tried to get help from the old man, and he said, well, show me your badge and see if that'll keep him off of you. So sometimes you can have all the credentials in the world, and that don't mean you can do the job either if you don't have enough common sense. And sometimes take it by the heart more than by the book, I guess.
All right, has anybody else got any comments? I think probably everybody's ready to vote.
I just want to make one more comment, and unfortunately, it is this way. But when you're dealing with the state and the government and all the regulations that they put in place on it, oftentimes common sense goes right out the window. There is no common sense for why they make us do the things they do. And I mean, I agree with you. I'd rather have a farmer with a head full of common sense than someone with 3 PhDs that's never had real world experience. Hopefully, if we go to this, we'll get the best of both worlds. Have someone with some common sense and some degrees to give them a background in knowing the non-common sense answer for why they make us do the things that they do. Unfortunately, common sense and government don't go hand in hand all the time.
Unfortunately, that's correct. All right, it's Mr. White.
Yes, sir, I'm just gonna say one thing. I know sometimes during elections, people make promises that they shouldn't make. A couple of us did when we were running. Some of us have had to say that we regretted those promises. But the fact of the matter is, I believe in representative government. And I ran and I made a promise that I would go out and talk to people and see how they felt. One sitting right there on the front row, and I respect his opinion. And he's for this. But the comments that I've had from the public, people that I've went out and talked to, and the calls that I've received far outweigh the ones that are for it. So I've got to vote my conscience, and I made a promise to those people that I would represent them. I have to go from there.
Okay, thank you. Any other comments? We will do a roll call on this. And I think if somebody's got any objections, we'll do the vote.
And this is, voting to amend the charter, is that correct?
Right. Has anybody got questions on, be sure we do understand, I know we talked about a lot what we are voting on. We are voting for the charter change as it came back from the state. All right, Ms. King.
Vice Mayor McDowell,
No.
Alderman Bratton,
Yes.
Alderman Callis,
No.
Alderman Coker,
Yes.
Alderman Harbin,
Yes.
Alderman Menace,
Yes.
Alderman White.
No.
All right, the charter change fails, and with that, we need to address the next ordinance, which is.
Mayor, could I just, 1 second? I've been on board, for this charter change initially from the beginning, and because I did think it was the best. But items like this come up, occasionally, and I personally would not like to see this divide the city council. I respect the people that voted forward and voted with me. I consider them my friends before they voted, and I consider them my friends now. It's been some spirited things said, back and forth, so I urge us all to put it behind us, move forward and do whatever we can to continue this city in a positive way, and I think most of us will, so I want the yays or the nays to know that, you know, I'm okay.
That's why I said, you know, I'm 110% in it one way or the other, and so tomorrow we're moving full speed ahead. We do need to consider this second reading this ordinance that we had passed for the job changes for the finance director and city recorder's job description, readjusting those. This will be item after this vote. We know which goes, so become next Monday night, the work study ready to discuss not this resolution ordinance, but how we move forward, and I will have my recommendations that time also. This is an ordinance, second reading to rescind ordinance 12-09, creating the finance director with job description and amending the city recorder's job description. Have a motion, get it on the floor.
So moved.
Have a second.
Second.
Is any other discussion? I mean, basically, we're just,
It's been so long since we discussed this, we might have to mention why this is necessary.
because the finance director was part of the new charter and is not part of our older charter. So, so that's why we're having to do it. We created. Just 1 minute here. We got something with the camera. Okay, we just had a short, about a few second delay there with the camera. Do you have anything else, Mr. Coker?
No, I just wanted, because I think we first discussed this like in July, and just wanted to
Right.
make sure that
Right.
the public knew what this was all about.
All right, so just getting things back on equal platforms. So. Any other discussion on this? All in favor of this ordinance, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? I don't have anything else.
Just one quick, it's understanding, you said that you'll, remember recommendations, it's understanding it's just a vacancy, it's just a matter of filling that vacancy, is that?
Right. And we may want to, I mean, there's 2 or 3 other things to talk about, you know, along with that, with the financial analysis and different things.
Okay.
So, you know, there's things we need to discuss. So. All right, anyone else have anything? I do appreciate everyone's attendance tonight and comments. If you don't have anything else, consider this meeting adjourned.